Hey, do you remember the Beverly Hillbillies? It was a long-running sitcom featuring a family from somewhere out in the boonies who accidentally strike oil and become ridiculously wealthy. They move to Beverly Hills, start living in a mansion, and enjoying the good life here in Southern California. But what if I told you that there's a real-life account of someone striking oil right here in LA County, and creating a history so interesting, almost 150 years later, you can still come and check out what remains of it? That is this story. Welcome to Mentryville. I wanted to come out here on a day trip just to take a look around, snap a few pictures, and soak up the atmosphere. A coworker told me about the existence of Mentryville a few years ago, and since then I've been dying to give it a look. As I was checking it out, I hear a cheerful voice call, "Hi, welcome to Mentryville," from the porch of the big house. That's when I met
Evan Decker.
Evan Decker.
So I'm president.
Jim Newman.
I'm president of Mentryville, California, Inc., which is the nonprofit that I started and took 6 months out of last year.
Yeah.
To do all the loops and all of that to restore this place and bring it back to what it might have looked like, in its heyday,
back in the day,
was about 1900 to 1910.
That's amazing.
This was this was basically where Chevron started back in 1876.
Right.
And the house that we're standing on is actually the superintendent's house. This building was built in the year 1896. And so the signs are actually wrong.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
The house was built in 1896, and we know this because there was an LA Times article done in August.
Gotcha.
Them bringing the lumber up to build this house.
Oh, wow.
The barn, we think, was built sometime in the 1890s.
Yeah.
We don't know an exact year. This tin garage building,
yeah,
that was built in the 20s.
Okay.
And then the schoolhouse, the one-room schoolhouse up there.
Yes, that was the next thing I was going to go check out.
Oh, well, you should. Well, you're in luck because I've been working on restoring that building, and
that's
been
awesome.
Getting some artifacts back from some of the old timers that lived up here.
Wow, that's
cool. So
cool.
this has been my little project for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
13. I started working on collecting a lot of the information and fighting to restore this place since I was 13, 14 years old.
Wow, that's amazing.
24 now.
Evan has an encyclopedic knowledge of the history behind Mentryville. Every building, down to the board and nail. Suddenly, my solo day trip turned into something I never would have dared hope for. A guided tour, complete with a room-to-room walkthrough of Pico Cottage and the Felton Schoolhouse.
So, see inside the house?
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes, please.
So, what's really neat, this house being built for 1896, definitely had, it was very unusual. You don't see an outhouse. You notice there's no outhouses around this part.
Right.
The house was built with built-in bathrooms, indoor plumbing from the beginning.
And that was kind of rare in those days?
Oh, very much so. You have to understand, when this building itself, in particular, was first built, Newhall was only 20 years old.
Okay.
There was nothing, barely anything here. This was a company town. So anybody that worked for the oil company, Standard Oil, Pacific Coast Oil, PCO for short, or CSO, California Star Oil.
Yeah.
If they worked, they had to live here. And so this place was teeming with houses for, the men and their families, boarding houses for the single men that worked for the oil company, and the superintendent lived here.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
And so it's about 13 rooms. The kitchen, everything's original as it gets. The only additions that have been done were the cabinets here.
Okay.
In this part. These are definitely from the 60s.
Though it's only a few buildings now, it used to be a bustling company town. Pico Cottage has had residents on and off all the way until 1996. It survived being slated for demolition several times, especially after the 1994 earthquake that devastated a lot of LA County.
So at the high point, there was 200 families living here.
Yeah.
And that was about 1885.
Right.
By 1940, there was probably about, I would say, 2 families left. And then by 1959, there was 1 family left.
Wow.
And so the story goes, in 59, Standard Oil was going to bulldoze this place down. And a gentleman by the name of Alton Manzer who worked for the company, had heard about, this place being demoed.
Mm-hmm.
And so he persuaded big bosses up in San Francisco to let his family move here and look after the place.
Yeah.
Now you have to understand that was in 1959. Most of the nation had electricity.
Right.
We did not get electricity in this canyon until 1964.
Whoa.
So the house, the schoolhouse, and any other building that was up here was actually lit by natural gas pumped directly from the oil derricks.
Oh, okay.
So they had pipes laid, and I mean, Mentry, the founder, Alex Mentry, was he was such an intuitive man, very hands-on, very ahead of his time.
Yeah.
And so you can, kind of get the sense that, he was very involved with the building of this house. So.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll show you some things in here.
Each room has a story, and despite being built so long ago, its design was extremely forward-thinking.
And so this, in the old Victorian homes, they have the pass.
Oh, got you.
So
To the main room.
Right. So the house originally had 4 fireplaces, all natural gas heated. So there was no wood burning fireplaces, all piped in.
Wow.
Natural gas fireplaces.
Got you.
That's the only one that's left. Mantle is original.
Oh, wow. So original, like, sconces and stuff.
1896. There used to be tiling here.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we have pictures of the house as it looked when it was still being lived in.
Right.
Despite being wired for electricity, a few remnants of Mentryville's gas-powered past remain.
Coleman lantern would have been attached to this.
Oh, for lighting.
For lighting. So you'll see a pipe up in the ceiling too. So up until 1964, which that was the year that the house was wired for electricity. I mean, it was, even then it was still like living in the 1890s.
Yeah.
So when the earthquake hit in 94, the house was spread tight. I mean,
Got you.
the house basically fell into the foundation, or
Right.
fell into the basement because there was no foundation.
Got you.
And then the porch actually came down, so the porch is actually rebuilt.
Yeah.
But the house, thank God, because it was built out of redwood, as with all the other
Right,
ones,
sturdy.
It's very sturdy.
Got you. Oh, that's cool.
So they really know how to build things back then.
Yeah.
Not everything is original to the time period, however.
What about the wallpaper? This is original too?
The
No?
wallpaper.
I was gonna say it looks a little bit more modern.
The movies came in, and when they would film, they just slap it. You have to understand Hollywood has done a lot of things up here. Too.
Right, of course.
And they've done some damage to the house. But I can't complain too much because they've been filming silent films up here since the 20s.
Right.
We know of one full silent film that was done here in 1929.
Yeah.
It was called The Last Roundup, directed by J.P. McGowan.
Okay.
McGowan. And so, but they're all riding up to the house, on the porch, and
that's cool.
on the schoolhouse. Roy Rogers came up here in '39 when they did a movie called Days with Jesse James. There's a scene of his leading lady hanging up a rent sign over here on the porch.
Oh wow, that's so neat.
And the ladder starts to, and Roy Rogers and Trigger are riding up to the house, and she tumbles on her ladder, and he catches her just in time.
Oh wow,
So back.
that's amazing.
But yeah, now let me show you the rest of the house.
Sure, thank you.
As we walked through the rooms, I was told about each one in turn, from the maid's quarters to the bedrooms upstairs.
The Mentrys were considered wealthy. They had a residence in downtown Los Angeles on Main Street.
Right.
And so one could infer that this, the bedrooms are all upstairs. And then you had, this is in the back corner of the house. You have probably the maid's room.
Yeah.
Now what's really neat, you'd think with the Victorian era home, you had, the wardrobe, the armoire.
Yeah.
Walk-in closet. Each bedroom has a walk-in closet, which was before, that came in the 20s.
Right.
Houses.
So this was very forward thinking for the
Very
day.
ahead of its time.
And like the door frames and everything, that's all original?
Yep.
Wow.
Door
That's
frames,
so cool.
The door frame, everything structural is original.
Yeah.
Railing, the balustrade is all original.
Yeah.
So here's the second floor.
Oh my gosh.
So there have been five bedrooms.
Yeah.
This room here, this is my favorite. This is joined by this lovely, huge, beautiful
Oh wow.
archway here.
Gotcha.
And it's not just the house I learned about. I also gained some insight into Victoria-era America.
that's gonna be the fun part when it comes to restoring this house, when it comes to the furnishing, because you have this double room. Now, back in the Victorian era, wealthy people did not sleep in the same bed.
Well, that's no fun.
It's kind of like it's like an Indiana Jones thing, where it's like maybe this might have been like a game room / sitting room.
Right. The house boasts bathroom fixtures from the late 1800s too, in part, including a sink and a clawfoot bathtub. It's a shame, though, that the gas-powered chandelier was no longer in place. That would have been something to see.
Oh wow, this is like a closet built into
linen
the...
linen cabinet, and watch your step there.
Oh.
Oops, almost walked backwards through the old banister. What I won't do to get a better angle.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point. Let me see.
But what's really cool is, I go digging behind the house, and I find all these really neat artifacts.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you can literally find square nails. They had a whole machine shop and everything up here.
Yeah.
Oh
wow.
Piece of one of the window weights.
Oh, that's cool.
For the window.
Shot of that.
Yeah, gosh, I found these. I was probably 16 years old.
Yeah.
And I was
That's
just digging
so
around
exciting.
behind the house, and so eventually I want to have these cleaned and displayed.
Of course, yeah.
And
Put
then
them in a
window
case.
weight put back on the window. So.
Next up, we walked over to the Felton Schoolhouse, or as Evan calls it, the crown jewel of Mentryville.
This building was built in 1885, and at the time, like I said earlier, the population here was about 200.
Right.
And you had a bunch of kids running around, and they needed an education.
Education, yep.
So, the closest township, the closest school was New Hall Grammar School, which was a good 8 miles way down there.
Got you.
And so, what they did was they had a schoolhouse built. And at one point, 13 children were taught here, 1st through 8th grade.
Yeah.
The schoolhouse closed in June of 1932.
Okay.
Because the student population dipped below 5, and I guess that was the state requirement to have a minimum of at least 5 kids.
Got you.
To start a school at the time. This is the classroom. Now, originally this was built first.
Okay.
This section, and this doorway here actually faced the road. So at some time between 1893 and 1900, watch your head right there.
I also almost bonked my head on a ceiling-mounted pipe. Man, I can't take me anywhere.
Got
That
you.
was the lighting system back then.
Got you. I was just trying to get you in a slightly better light. There we go.
Right? Oh,
There we go.
So this was built first, and you'll see how in the coat room there was a difference in floorboard change.
Okay.
And so they built this first in 1885. At some point between 1893 and 1900, they turned the building at 45 degrees.
Wow.
So this door was facing the road.
Yeah.
Basically. And then they expanded out this way, built the coat room and the teacher's library, and then the porch. This is where kids were taught back in the turn of the
Are
century.
these desks original?
Are not original to the schoolhouse itself, but they are of the time period.
So they're period
Correct.
pieces. Wow.
So actually, the smaller desks were on this side.
Okay.
The larger desks were on this side of the potbelly stove.
Also, let the record show, I exercised massive self-restraint and did not immediately pick up and start reading the ancient books on these desks. I really wanted to.
Now remember, like I said, all the buildings were lit by natural gas, hence the pipe.
Right.
There would have been one.
That's
on this
amazing.
end. There would have been one on this end as well. Came down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I see the fixture foot up there.
And
Yeah.
then, globes would have come on either side. Now what's really neat, potbelly stove, there was a pipe that came down, and then how barbecues inside, they have that, that light, with the light, flames?
Yeah.
Same concept. They rigged the potbelly stove because it wasn't wood burning.
Right.
And that's how there's heat in here.
Wow, that's incredible.
So
this is the original.
no, actually, this has a unique story.
Okay.
When I was a sophomore in high school, I did a project up here to clean up the because it was in much worse condition than it is now. And a gentleman that I guess works for Chevron, retired now. He was up here while we were working on cleaning the schoolhouse, and he says, "I have a potbelly stove that's about the time period."
Wow.
And so Daryl, Manzer, and another mentor, a friend of mine who's no longer with us, Dwayne, they went and picked it up, and there it sits.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's clear Evan has a lot of passion for this place and how special it is. His hope for the future is an inspiring one.
It would be nice to have, when it's restored, you know, school kids to come up here and, you know, have school for a day in a one-room schoolhouse.
That'd be incredible. I mean, they do like, you know, the reenactments for like Civil War and stuff like that. Like that would be amazing, I think, for kids to be able to, you know, maybe dress in like little period costumes.
Absolutely.
Actually, you know, this is how your ancestors used to learn.
Exactly. We actually, at the historical, I actually volunteered at the Historical Society for a long, long time, as well as I give tours at the Hart Mansion in Hart House. But, you know, we have school kids come, and it's just amazing. You know, I'll show them an artifact or something, and they'll, you know, we'll explain it to them, and they'll be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, right?
We had it so lucky.
From hopes for the future to something else from the past that he wanted to share. And now I'm sharing it with you.
So this was the wash house. Now, what I'm going to show you is quite neat. If you look in the wall about right here, you'll see an M+T going vertically down, and then across, at the bottom you'll see a year, 1885.
Wow.
M+T, 1885. We have no idea who these kids were, but there's a part of me that hopes that whatever they had endured. One man's graffiti is another man's historical statement of intent. And of course, no trip to a historical site is ever complete without a look at the loo situation.
So these two buildings back here, this was the girls' house.
Okay.
Notice the sidewalk here. So, you know, back then the girls wore their little country dresses. So they didn't want to get their dress. The teacher didn't want to get their dresses.
The hems of their dress muddy, yeah.
Exactly. But if you come at the boys' outhouse,
and they just get a dirt road.
They just get the dirt. They're also too. I found this kind of interesting. The outhouse is a double-seated, so you can, you know, do talk business or whatever.
Right, if Timmy and Jimmy both need to go at the same time. Oh my gosh, and this is like original,
This is original.
Wow. Well, look, I'll let you get back to work.
Of course. Well, feel free to explore.
But hey, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been a genuine pleasure.
Well, I hope you learned a little something.
Oh gosh, yeah, no, absolutely. Look, you took what was going to be a pleasant day trip and made it absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. No, I feel really privileged to be able to see all this. So I really do appreciate that.
When you come back in the future, it'll be more work done on the place.
I'll make sure to look you up.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And that was the end of my tour. I looked around the site a little longer, then made my way back to civilization. One thing I'll say about Mentryville is that cell signal in that area is close to non-existent, so if you Uber out there, you're looking at a bit of a walk before you can use the app to leave. Mentryville has a website where you can see and learn more. I recommend checking the place out, and if you have a desire to help Evan with his efforts to restore and preserve Mentryville, you can donate to their 501c3 nonprofit. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so that you are notified of all the new content that Nerd News Social provides, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.